What up, man? I had a couple problems this morning getting this shit to start up. But what's good. Trying to touch bases with everybody. You know what I'm saying? Do another morning convo. It's been a minute since I've been up here or really going after it. But I figured I'd do this movie review about the Harriet Tubman movie. I thought it was interesting. I thought it was a lot of things in the movie. And I remember before I seen the movie, I seen a lot of the pushback from like I heard people talking about they didn't like the movie because it made the white guy look like this. And I'm telling you, this is what I heard before I seen the movie. People saying they didn't like it because they made the people like a white savior. And then they painted the people like black people as the enemy and shit like that. So I heard people say that they didn't like it for that reason, right? So I said, let me check it out. Let me see what the problem is, because a lot of time it be disconnect. So first thing in the Harriet movie is that as soon as the movie comes on early, you find out at the beginning that they were saying that her father was a free man, right? And the guy she fell in love with, he was a free man. But her father was free after a certain age. And her mother was supposed to be free, according to the movie, was supposed to be free, you know what I'm saying, when she was 40. But they didn't, the plantation master didn't want to release her. Now, at the beginning of the movie, she's trying to marry a man, like, you know, he was like, I want my kids to be born free. So he's free. So it's two things that pop up here. So first of all, you're telling us that even in slavery, like I be telling people, that there were free blacks walking around the South. Right? But they never gave you any background information, right? They just said that they was free. You know what I'm saying? So, give me 1 second. So, the master ended up denying them, saying like, yo, you always gonna be my property. So he didn't honor, because they were saying that he had in the will that his grandfather wrote, he's supposed to let them go. He didn't honor it. But what it was showing you was this. The plantation masters in the South or in that area, a lot of them want to let their slaves go because their slaves was considered their wealth. Just like, you know, a person that got land and they own cattle, and they got cows, horses, cattle, and shit like that. That's their wealth. And when a wealthy family got to sell their animals and shit, and you know what I mean, they land and they lose their wealth. I don't care how much money you got, but you lose your wealth, right? But in this Harriet movie, the dude that she was trying to marry at the beginning, he was a free man, but they never explained to you how he became free. You don't know if he was a slave before, but no, he wasn't. He was a free man. The question is how, right? So go back to proof of understanding that even during slavery, that there were free African Americans, or what we call them today in the South, right? And one of the things legally that they was using was called the Free Sundry Moors Act, right? And it was this thing, and it wasn't in the movie, but the Free Sundry Moors Act was something that was used by like free Moors, so-called African Americans that was going to court, and they could prove that they wasn't slaves. So in the Harriet Tubman movie, when she's trying to marry at the beginning, old boy, right? They won't let him go because he's free. So he tell him like, stay off my land, man. Stay your ass from around here. Don't come on my property, right? But he said he got a lawyer. So then it's telling you like, not only at the time of damn slavery could blacks get representation in certain places, but he had got a lawyer who went and dug on the will and checked it. You know what I'm saying? But if ain't nobody gonna enforce the laws, you know what I'm saying, it don't matter if they pass laws. So go back to slavery. You can say people free, but if ain't nobody gonna let them go, that's why they went into the Civil War. Now Harriet, in her situation, they were saying that, you know, it's a couple things in the movie that was deep, but it's also kind of subliminal. That's why people had problems with it. So early on, he tell Harriet in the movie, right, with some interesting shit. So when the plantation, when the master tell her that she can't get married and tell dude to stay off, the free man to stay off his property, she go pray, right? And so basically her best friend, which is the master's son, showing you how the kids, when they kids, they don't know racism until they get older and have to push it. And he said, look, my father told me that having a favorite slave was like having a favorite pig. And it's things in this movie like that. If you listen, they just telling you how it's viewed. Having a favorite slave is like having a favorite pig. And he said, now you either gonna have to, you know what I'm saying? It ain't no use to naming it, because you either gonna have to sell this pig or then you gonna eat it. And if you eat it, you definitely gonna forget his name. And when he's talking about selling it, it's like selling a slave. But eating it is killing it, like for it being disobedient. You know what I'm saying? So if you kill the motherfucking slave, or you do something crazy to him, you definitely gonna forget him, because you, in some sense, saying that you gonna forget him, and that person ain't gonna mean nothing to you because you're guilt in a lot of ways, right? So he ended up making her come back. So he decided, he was like, you know, his father ended up dying. And then what ended up happening is that Harriet, she see that he about to sell her, the son, cause he was like, she was always praying for him to die and shit. So Harriet went on a run. Now before she left, her the guy that was free that wanted to marry her was like, look, yo, I want to run with you. But she was saying in the movie, like, she didn't want him to run with her because he was free already. And she was like, yo, if they catch you, they gonna make you a slave, right? So it's clear. So we got to ask ourselves. So we know her father was a slave that got free, but this other guy was free the whole time. You know what I'm saying? He was born free. The question is how? How was this person in this Harriet Tubman movie in the 1800s? Because it's not that long ago. Because they said she died in 1913. You know what I'm saying? She died in 1913. So it's not that long ago when she was doing this shit. So that's why we got to realize that shit ain't really right. So Harriet, as I said, like, she was supposed to meet him that night and they were supposed to run away together. But what ended up happening is she did run that night, but she left him because she didn't want to get him in trouble. You know what I'm saying? When she left, and that's what it showed, you know, she ran to freedom for her first time. And when she got there, she met a guy who was he was like an engineer. He was doing stuff, and you know, every slave that came to this place, he wrote down a record of where they came from, what they had been through, what they was going through, right? Now in the Harriet movie, they touch a lot of situations. Now Harriet, she ran to freedom, and in the movie she goes back, but when she finally goes back the first time, she's going back for her husband, right? But when she get back, her husband, the free man that was free already, he had remarried. Now, I don't think they really specify how long she was gone before she came back. You know what I'm saying? But she came back, and when she came back to get him, he had remarried a free woman. He didn't have to like beg, he didn't have to beg nobody because she was free. So go back, another born free person during slavery in the South. So she was upset. So what they was exposing at that moment, in my opinion, was they always picking at our relationships as black men and black women. So it's some truth to it, but we got to learn how to dissect it and look at it for what it is. So it go back to Harriet was disappointed because she like, I came all the way back to get you and you marry somebody else. And so the deeper level, go back to our relationships. Like he told Harriet, which is some true shit. I was willing to die to make sure you made it free or whatever it took, but you chose to run without me. Now I'm not knocking Harriet because she's strong, right? Which ain't her real name, which I found out like 2 years ago. That's why you can't really find much on her. Her name is like Arminta Ross. But I found this out years ago. That's why you want to find out what you want to find on Harriet. You got to look up her real name. You know what I'm saying? So her husband was saying basically like, yo, I was willing to die for you and you left me and you ran to freedom. So he was basically trying to say, yo, if you made it to freedom, or he heard she jumped off the bridge at the end because she ended up jumping off the bridge to get free. And she jumped off this bridge, he thought she was dead. But if you made it to freedom, the last thing somebody gonna think, you gonna come back. That's reality. You know what I'm saying? So she was so hurt and upset at him because he picked a new wife. But like I tell people all the time, relationships, she was thinking about him, so I'm not knocking her. But he was willing to die for her and make sure she made it safe. And they would have been there together if she was willing to take the chance. You know what I'm saying? Not knocking her. But in return, she left him for his safety, but he thought she was going and thought he wasn't coming back. So go back to our relationships with our people. It's like, I guess it's trusting. It's like, it's ways to go about it. She wrong for leaving him if he wanted to be there, because it's gonna make him feel some way. And then, you know, as women would say, I guess they would say he wrong for finding a new woman, a new wife. But if a slave run away to freedom, the last thing you think is they're gonna come back to the plantation. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? So that was that. Now she ended up coming back, and you know, she freed more people, right? And it was saying like, you know, they said when she was younger that I think her master was threw a 2-pound weight at somebody, if you do your research, at a door, and she just happened to be walking through and it hit her upside the head. That's why she had this like dent. And so when she went in the movie, when she got free, when she made it to the free colony of free slaves, the guy she was talking to, which was a Moor, because you could tell, see, when you see these guys in movies with these tall hats and shit, it's a disguise, because they can't show you the fez and shit. It's too much, you know what I'm saying? It's too revealing in my opinion. But he kept, the one that kept the memory of all the slaves, and she was telling him what happened. He was asking, well, tell me about your life. And she told him she got hit upside the head with a weight. And she was like, honestly, it made me hear God clearer. And he wrote down possible brain damage. Right? So they're saying that she was having seizures and shit. What she was saying, she was connecting with God and shit. She was having seizures and delusions. Not saying that it wasn't It don't mean, I mean, who am I to say that she wasn't talking to God? Because by far, all the work she did and how she went about it, everything she did, I'm not going to question anything. That's not my job to question her, because I'm not here to discredit her, because whatever she did, whoever she was talking to, she was tapped in. You know what I mean? And because she did so much, you know what I mean? And she just wanted, in my opinion, it was very strong in the movie because she kept going back and they didn't knock her. And like when she first got there, you know, she met a lady who let her stay there, and she was born free too, but she always been free up north. And so Harriet was like, yo, I kind of feel like, Harriet always felt like they couldn't understand, because like the free blacks, they either had been free so long that they was disconnected from the struggle, or that they was never born slaves, so that they never truly understood the struggle, right? And so this is the inner working. So when you hear the Moors teach that during the Civil War is when we lost control over this country, when they're talking about as far as the Moorish Empire, because we had slaves, right? You have to, like, in the movie, they kept telling us, like, you know, they show her father, and then when she runs, Harriet's on the run, but like, it's a dude, it's a young guy, which he free, and he tell her owner, like, yo, you looking for the Moses? I can help you. And then he said, yo, the best slave catcher of all, I could get him for you, right? And he was like, why do I need you, nigga? And he was like, because this slave catcher hang out where you would never go, which was letting me know that he was a black man, right? And of course, the best slave catchers would be black men, because who better to catch slaves than somebody that looked like a slave that can walk through and infiltrate and play stupid until the middle of the night and grab your ass and run off with you. You know what I mean? A slave catcher can act like a slave to catch slaves. You know what I'm saying? Because it go back. So the slave catchers, the black slave catchers was the first federal agents and informants. If you want to look at it from a true perspective, the black slave catchers and the black slavers were the first black federal agents in some sense. So he said, yo, for $1, and the dude pulled his gun out and he was like, tell me, nigga, and he pointed that way. And then he threw himself $1. Now that right there, for me personally, that connected me back to that shit with Jesus. When Judas gave up Jesus for 40 pieces of silver. Because in the movie, he flipped them like a silver dollar. You know what I'm saying? So y'all gotta be able to see this shit. Which is saying, it's symbolic, saying like, yo, niggas sell each other out for money. You know what I mean? And this shit go back to the beginning of time. So, you know, he said, yo, meet me here later, So he went and got bro. Now, and the fucked up part about it is, the way the black slave, the one that he went to get, he looked like Hannibal Bay, which is the dude, like the big beard, he looked like Mr. T, who the guy, and like, it's intentional that they made this nigga look like Hannibal Bay in the movie, who went over in Europe and Spain and in Europe and conquered all them areas for the Africans after oppression, right? And he changed the appeal and the look of these people. So when I seen him with the big beard, I was like, oh man, see, it's intentional. But it's true though. And I want people as people, yo, we gotta stop being so fucking sensitive all the time, yo. You know what I mean? That's why I don't even be going there with people. At the end of the day, it's true. I don't understand why people got a problem with this situation. In the Harriet Tubman movie, when that black man was catching slaves, that's true history. You know what I mean? That's the reason why the slaves was having such a hard time, because they were free black men and women who were slave catchers, right? Because it was a profitable business, right? Good morning. Good morning, TT. Love you, sis. It's a profitable business for us. And we got to look at it as realistic. Take your personal feelings out and let's look at it. There's free blacks that was free their whole life during while we was enslaved. In the areas we was enslaved there. This is facts. Right? But we can say, yo, they sellouts, they suckers, they race traders. What can a couple free black families do amongst hundreds of white families, right? Other than try to infiltrate, so go back to spook by the door. The only thing that a true black person with power could do is infiltrate, get the respect from the whites at the time, right? To protect their family and own the plantation and own slaves. Now, I can't tell you what they was doing or if it's right, but I would tell you that I know for a fact that there was some black slavers who was worse than the white ones, but there was also some black slavers who was, when people came to their plantations, they had their people running around acting stupid, you know what I mean? But it is true. So when I seen the reviews of, you know, people not liking the Harriet movie, that's true fact. Why do you think we was in slavery so long? Because the free blacks, it became a business. Shit, we gotta eat, we gotta feed our kids too, or you'll pay us good money? Cause like he said like, he asked them for like mad money. Like he was like, yo, I help you, but I want like 300 in silver or something. And then the plantation or the white man was like, what the fuck, nigga, what you need that shit for? And he was like, I like fucking white women, you feel me? And I was laughing, and then at the end, they was looking at him, and he pulled the strap out, right? And then that white man went for their strap, and he started laughing like, ha, ha, ha. See, the laughter was saying that they only accept niggas who laughing. That's the problem. I'll tell you, that's what I get my issues with. Because as a black man in society, if you not a smiling, dancing type nigga, you know what I'm saying? In a lot of ways, saying that. Not saying that's all you have to be, but it was showing you the profile. Because after he meant what he said, but at the end he started laughing like, ha, ha, ha. You know what I mean? So, and then they look, oh, he a laughing, oh, he a funny nigga, he ain't no threat. You know what I mean? And that's what that meant, right? Now, they wanted Harriet bad, so the one that went and got him, the whole movie, when I seen that shit, I was thinking to myself, and see, this showing judgment. The one that went and got him, I was like, yo, you just sold out our people for a fucking quarter. But see, we gotta you gotta start having an open mind about it. Because when they went to catch Harriet when she came back that time, he saw her. And he told him like, yo, I see her, stay right here, she gotta come this way. And while he was standing right above her when she had they said she, was talking to God, she was praying. And he looked at her. And he watched her. And he watched her say, let's not go that way. God told me not to go that way, I'm gonna go that way. And he watched her and everything. He sat there. And then he let them escape because, in my opinion, it was his respect for her fear of the Creator, regardless of what you think of God or whatever you believe, right? When he seen her praying, and he seen how she knew from praying that not to go that way, he watched her cross the water, and then he went back, and then he told the master and them, like, not his master, because he was free. He told the white men and shit like, yo, I don't know what happened. And then he tried to shoot him, but the black man, the one that was the real slave, pushed the gun so he couldn't shoot him. And he knew that bruh had lied. But he was looking at like, he pushed the gun like, fuck you think I'm gonna let you shoot him? You feel me? So that let me know, it go back to history saying that we gotta reevaluate some of the niggas we calling sellouts, right? Because the book, The Spook by the Door, was the same thing. It was a gang member from Chicago who infiltrated because the CIA was looking for a token nigga. So he got down with the CIA, and they taught him how to military warfare, and they taught him how to go across the country and how to build bombs in other cities and shit. So what he did was he learned the shit. He went back to Chicago. After he retired 20 years later, because he had to play the game, he went back and he learned their system. And he went back and taught the gang members warfare. And at the end of the book, it's a revolution, or it's a movie on YouTube you can find about The Spook by the Door. And at the end, it was the revolution. You know what I'm saying? So it made me realize to stop being so judgmental of people that we consider sellouts, right? Because like Dick Gregory used to always say, like in every other species of anything on the planet, a tom is the tough, right? A tomcat is the toughest cat in the alley, Dick Gregory said, meaning that can't no cat fuck with it, right? And when you put Tom in front of anything, it's always been a strength. But when they put Tom in front of Uncle Tom, right, then we look at it as weakness. But some of these niggas we call Uncle Toms is the reason why we walking around right now, because of their infiltration and was able to show other reasons. So we got to reevaluate some of our sellouts. Some of our sellouts is sellouts. But some of our sellouts won't sellouts. They play the game the right way. But history always gonna write them to be fucking sellouts so that we don't value them. And that's what I got from that shit. So it made me watch what I said, because I caught myself before saying like, I'll be real. I mean, because I can prove that Martin had some things that weren't right. But then I had to catch myself, because at the end of the day, Martin is responsible for some of the reasons why we got some of our freedoms today, regardless of good, bad, or indifferent. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that he's a sellout, but in some senses, he was more closer to the status quo than Malcolm was. You know what I'm saying? So I was looking at him like he was a sellout, it's easy for me because I study so deep. I started looking at like Frederick Douglass and them as sellouts, but I want y'all to understand why. The birth certificates and shit was introduced to us in like the 1800s by the abolitionists. And they told us that, getting these birth certificates would make us free. And I know I'm going off, but I'm gonna go back. It would make us free. So me looking at it from now, I felt like it was some sellout shit. But I can't really prove to you that they truly understood what they were doing. Because Frederick Douglass in his book, he was saying in a piece of it, I didn't read the whole thing, but I read a piece of it, and he was saying like at the end, towards the end, he realized they used him. And that's what was happening. Like, scholars at the 1900s, they only went to college if they was allowed to. And we got to understand that. The educated blacks, during times of struggle that was educated, they were allowed to by some wealthy family, some wealthy man, woman, whoever, who allowed them to go to college and allowed them the freedom. And so they became the voice box of our people. And that's how Garvey got caught up, because Garvey and Malcolm, they wasn't hand chosen by nobody. You know what I mean? All the rest of our black leaders, Martin, and all the rest of them was kind of Booker T. Washington. They was hand chosen by white people in some sense, or somebody that had love for them that helped them. You know what I mean? Not knocking them, but it's the truth. So that's why I went to the sellout thing. So back to the Harriet with the black slaver, you know, he let her cross. Now, at the same time while this is going on, it also brought up another powerful point. So she about to cross this water. Now, she came back to get her brother. And her brother turned on her, right? Now, this is deeper. When they say brother, we talking about black men and black women, right? This is what I'm telling you what I got from it. So she like, we gonna have to cross this water. We can't go this way. And it was her brother that was like, nah, you bugging. You feel me? Fuck that. We gonna go this way. And they like, well, who we gonna follow? He like, y'all gonna follow me. See, that's the reason why black women don't be fucking with black men. Like, I mean, they love us, but see, it's that type of shit the reason why we be having our problems. And I'm just keeping it banned. And it's subliminal, but it's a truth that we gotta learn to accept as black men. Harriet risked her life. She knew the right. That man, if he was strong enough to lead them, he would have led them to fuck off that plantation without her. Right? And that be the problem. There's leaders in our community today in many fields who, when shit hit the fan, y'all need the leaders, but when it come down, when shit get uncertain, motherfuckers who got a little strength gonna sit there and flex like, you know what I mean? And that's why we can't get nowhere. You know what I mean? So, but Harriet ended up, that was when, I guess in the movie it was showing you why because in the movie they never showed you like how she put the gun to people, you feel me? So they was real biased about, I mean, they was real nice about that. But in reality, I guess it was trying to show you why she started doing that shit, because her own brother was foul about it. And so she ended up crossing anyway, and they seen that she made it across. So then that's when the rest of them followed her, and her brother got across, and then she told him when she got across the water, like, yo, don't nobody ever fucking question me again. So they was giving you background information of why Harriet was, because really Harriet, when he said that in real life, Harriet was pulling her strap out and putting it in the nigga's face, like, listen, you slave, you punk ass slave nigga. If you take your ass back or you run and do something stupid, when they catch you, they gonna beat you so crazy, you gonna tell them the way I came or the ways that we took. And I can't afford for you to tell them none of my routes, you feel me? And so it goes back to that. And so it go back like, you know, the Underground Railroad, right? In the movie, he introduced Harriet, the guy the one that was writing down all the history of people. He introduced her, he brought her. It was a secret society if you pay attention. Only certain people was allowed in. So the Underground Railroad was a secret society of blacks and whites, right? And it's showing you like, you have to understand, right? So that's how she was able, we say, what? Secret society supersedes governments, laws, and nations, right? So a secret society, even though the laws might say one thing, but the society and the oaths for the society supersede nations and rules and laws, meaning that even though I might be from up north, I'm part of the Underground Railroad, and and I got a friend that live in Texas, and the most racist, because North Carolina is number 2, but the most racist state in the country. And I got a friend that's a part of the Underground Railroad. His loyalty is to me, so that's how I can get him to hire slaves. You know what I mean? Because secret societies' boundaries and powers supersede laws, nations, and boundaries, even in war. You know what I'm saying? So, and it's been proven because there's some Masons that did some shit in war where they supposed to kill them, but they didn't kill them because of the things they did. You feel me? So it's showing you that. And so that's why when I put the other day, so the Underground Railroad was a secret society. Yes. Now, the movie not going to tell you this, but I was digging one day like 6 months ago, and the Haitians funded the Underground Revolutions. The Haitians. And that's the history they're not going to tell you. The Haitians, who we call the Haitians today, are the Moors that freed themselves, right? Because in history, when you talk about Haiti, they call it the Maroon Colony, right? Right? And the word maroon is a color today, right? But the Maroon Colony freed themselves, which is the Moorish colony. Maroon meaning plural, right? And they freed themselves, and I don't want to say his name, I always say it wrong because, you know, they be like, it sounded like Daniel Louis Vuitton, but the leaders of the Haitian Revolution, he had money, so his money funded, his money was funding the Underground Railroad and the Haitians and the leaders of the Haitian Revolution. But he ended up getting locked up, and so William Penn stole his money and started that college as Hidden Colors told you, and the Haitian Revolutions and the Haitians who did survive and the leaders funded the Underground Railroad. You know what I mean? So when they say, you know, at the end of the movie, well, towards the end, he ended up shooting. They was about to catch Harriet, and he told her, like, I want her old master, which was her old best friend, like, don't kill her, I want her alive. You feel me? But the black dude shot at her, and then he ended up, and the master shot him in his head. You know what I mean? Because he was going to kill her anyway, because he got mad. And so they was like, people didn't like the movie because they was like, oh, it made the white man the savior. Because Harriet ended up shooting him in his leg or something, but she ended up walking off. You know what I'm saying? So people didn't like that aspect, but we got to deal with certain things, yo. there would be no Underground Railroad, and they wouldn't be certain things, and we wouldn't have certain rights and dignities if it weren't for certain white people who was putting their neck out on the fucking line for us at the same time. So even though I am strong, like I was telling people, yo, I'm unapologetic about history, but I'm unapologetic about it all. Rather, when I say like we gotta have some respect for the white people or the Europeans, the proper words, who put their neck on the line, or the other races who put their neck on the line in the Underground Railroad to hide us in the back of their shit. You know what I mean? Or to do certain things, because at the end of the day, there's never, like, we can't progress in no way without the help of others, especially with the mindset of us. You know what I mean? It's showing you that I don't care. I don't care which, no matter where we dig in history, slavery, before slavery, we look at the Africa continent, we look at the continent that we know as the Middle East today, we look at China, and we look at all these continents, and you're going to find out that all these empires that know that these black people, they work together in certain ones, but it was like the families and the royalties, that's where they fell apart from a lack of working. So I tell people all the time, like, yo, don't get it twisted that today that black people don't work together. This shit been going on for a long time. You know what I mean? And that's why I had to tell people, like, I ain't saying I don't like, I really don't care. The reality is, if you dig, you can find out certain things. You know what I'm saying? But it gotta be something that you wanna know. Or what up, cuz? What up, Leah? So we just gotta understand that, you know what I mean? So in the movie with the Harriet Tubman, they were showing you things that happened, right? And so like, it got to a point in the movie where Harriet, they was telling you, like, they passed a law where they can go get their slaves back. Listen to that shit. So after a while, Harriet had freed so many slaves, they passed a law where they was able to go to these colonies and take their slaves back, right? And so during that time is when the girl that helped Harriet, she ended up getting killed because they went in there because the slave catcher and the master ended up finding out that house she was in. So they went there, and when Harriet, she was supposed to get on the boat and run, but she went to that house to go get old girl, but they had her. They ended up killing her, and that was the girl that Harriet told at the beginning, because she told her I wasn't born a slave. So Harriet was like, so how can you relate? It's easy to say I stink, I need to take a bath, but you can't relate to us. And old girl was like, I'm sorry, but old girl died for her in the movie because she was saying like, okay, what I got from this at the end of the day, and it go back to like people in the hood, right? Niggas in the hood, or these street niggas that say, bro, niggas in the street don't got no right to talk if you went out there busting your pistol. And no, right? Because those ain't the only people out here that can save you or help you. And street niggas, most of the time, they don't got the logic. You know what I'm saying? And back in the day, the street niggas had the logic. Those was the old heads. But the old heads these days, they not out here. You know what I mean? They in prison. The real motherfuckers who gonna tell you the truth. Or they not on the block no more because they not gonna risk their life for some young niggas that's not even gonna be loyal that can for dollars and shit, or vice versa. Right? So the Harriet movie, when I seen everybody's problems with this shit, it bugged me out because this is true shit. Yes, there was black slave catchers. That's common sense. Why you think we were so fucked up? Why else would the slaves not be running? Because the slaves could not figure out who was infiltrating. They had to worry about running from master, and had to worry about the slave catchers, or the slaves they running with that really want slaves, that was just running to find the right, that was just running with them to tell the route of the Underground Railroad. You know what I'm saying? When they got free, they was gonna write a letter back. You know what I mean? Oh, the routes we took was kind of like in this area. You know what I mean? So the Harriet movie was deep, and it broke down that. And then so like her mother and father, her mother was in the movie. Her mother was supposed to be free. Like the plantation owner, his grandfather had released her father, but he told his son, which is the one that was the owner at the beginning of the movie, that when Harriet's mother turned 40 or 35, she supposed to let him go. When she turned 35, he kept her, and when she turned 36, he sold her sister, which technically, legally meant that Harriet mother, her sister, and all of them were supposed to be free already. You know what I'm saying? But it's showing you. So I go back to telling you that this is some real history shit. I tell people I'm in North Carolina, right? So even when I had to defend myself in court, I say some real shit in the courtroom. That's why I tell niggas and say what they want. I know I'm a stand-up nigga. Because I say it in the courtroom when shit is on the line, when they can tell me to jail. North Carolina is the second to last state to free their slaves. Meaning that they freed their slaves, and it was people from the north coming down south to visit 50 years after slavery had ended, and they were seeing slaves still on the thing, and they would stop their cars and be like, you know slavery over, right? And the black people wouldn't know, because if the plantation owners in that area, in them states, just didn't care to tell the slaves that they were free, how else would the slaves know? The slaves more than likely didn't have radios. You know what I'm saying? More than likely if it was TV, they didn't have a TV or no form of communication. So how would the slaves know that they were free? It's an easy control. And so in Texas and North Carolina was the last 2 states to free their slaves. So that's why I tell people in North Carolina, know what you're dealing with. You know what I mean? I went to court in a small town like 2 years ago for driving without a license charge, and I broke their ass down. And I told them in the courtroom, like, yo, for the record, I don't see any cameras in here. You know what I mean? And when I came back to court, they gave me, I had to come back like a month later. When I came back to court, they had cameras. You know what I mean? So that's why I be telling people that we got power, and we got to learn how to use our power. Or, you know, my homeboy just came to me recently, and I was talking to him about some stuff, and I was telling him, look, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know without sending you to jail. You know what I'm saying? So this is what, all of this touches back to with Harriet. So Harriet, her father, she came back multiple times. She wanted to get her sister, but her sister lived in the house, but they knew to keep her close, right? Her mom and her father was free, but her mother was there. She never freed her sister. You know what I'm saying? Her sister ended up dying before she can get her, but she did free a lot of people, so she felt like her mission failed. Now, I can relate to that. Let me tell you why. Even when, let's say I make the best music in the world and you know what I'm saying, I end up could be the biggest life change in the world through music, just speaking, right? I could save 1 million people off my music. I could touch 1 million motherfuckers. But if I can't save my brothers and my sisters and my mother and my brothers, I don't care how many people I saved, I still feel like I failed. You know what I mean? So that is that feeling, and I can relate. Like even with music, it's 10 years, 12 years later, and I'm starting to get momentum in the things that I love. But when I look around me, my closest nigga, he dead. You feel me? It's a bittersweet. So even if I get where I want to go, I can't share it with my mans. You feel me? My pops, he gone. So since my pops died this year, when I get to where I want to go, it's a bittersweet because I can't share that happiness with my father. You know what I'm saying? Or the people that's in prison that ain't never coming home, niggas I grew up with, or people like that. Once I get everything that I work hard for, if I can't share it with the people, it doesn't feel right. You know what I mean? So I understand why Harriet would turn around and go back. Why rappers or why actors get all this money and be miserable. So I can relate to it because I ask myself every day, yeah, people come like, I see my music growing daily. But it bothers me because I know deep down inside they can give me $10 million tomorrow. My pop's not here. The nigga that risks his life for me most of the time in the street, that he ain't here either. So still people here that I love that, yeah, I can still find happiness, but I would never truly be able to share the shit with a lot of the people who was like the people that was dreaming with me the whole way. You know what I mean? So I was upset with the shit somewhat. And I'm just real enough to say it, you know what I mean? And so I was upset about it. So I could relate to why it was so important to her to go back, because regardless of how successful we can get, there's any real person gonna want to save their people. If I'm free, because in some sense, like I told my mother for years, and so a lot of people be like, bro, you got a lot that you still got to do, but mentally you free, and you got a lot of freedoms in your life of what you can do. And I say, yeah, but I always say, like, what does it matter if I got 1,000 friends and I'm free, but everybody else around me is in bondage and got chains on them, it's gonna bother me. You know what I mean? So that's the reason why Harriet kept going back. So, you know, they wanted Harriet to stop because they like, yo, you the most important piece to this shit. You the most valuable piece. If they catch you, they gonna tar and feather you, and you know what I'm saying? And so, but she was just like, told them in the meeting, like, yo, y'all been free so fucking long that y'all must be forgetting. Like, she like, yo, I'll die trying to free my people. You know what I'm saying? And we gotta realize that that's a rare genetic, man. And that's something I realized. It's a lot of niggas. It's a lot of street niggas who will bust their pistol, but they're not stand-up niggas. You know what I mean? That was my transition. And I'm not saying I'm the most gangster, but it was easier for me to stand up over some real shit. If I'm gonna lose my life and I'm gonna go through some shit and gotta shoot it out with some cops or some shit, it's gonna be over something that I knew I was standing right for, because I could live with it. If I'm gonna do 100 years, I'm gonna do 100 years because then you did something to my sister or something. Or you did something to one of my family members, and I'm gonna get you. And then when they give me them 100 years, I'm gonna look it in the face and I can live with that shit. That's what this shit about. It's a difference between 100 years doing 100 years or 50 years or 20 years behind some shit that you ain't had no business doing, or me doing 100 years from blowing your face off for disrespecting one of my sisters in the worst way, or violating her. You know what I mean? So it's that same principle. If she, in some sense, if she died that way, in her mind, she knew that she was an automatic ticket to heaven, as they would say. You know what I mean? So Harriet was a powerful person, but it go back to tell you, like, Harriet also, she was the first woman she was the first female commander in military history they showed you in movies, and that shit true. But what's crazy about this whole shit is they really ain't know that shit. But that's what I tell people through everything. When y'all hear me talk, I don't care what men think of me. The more I've dug out of all of the books and all the research I did in the last 7 years, everything keep going back to our women. I don't care how far you dig or what soil or what continent you on. The mother of them civilizations is black women, or what we call black women, right? So when I had these conversations, whether if it's with a black man or anybody, when I be going into the history and we got disconnects, I know you got a lack of love for your women or black women. Because when I be having these conversations, I dead ass don't want to talk, bro. And that's why I tell women, you need to learn your history, right? Because when you having these conversations with these niggas that you so-called in love with, they gonna show you they chauvinistic ways. You feel me? Like, for example, I was in a meeting at my nigga Tizzy house. And my nigga Tizzy didn't say this. I'm just saying, I was at Tizzy house and there's a whole bunch of people. And I was talking about this history, right? And I was saying I had a woman, like, if anything, if you look at it, and this is just the idea, if anybody came first, she came first, right? And it's not telling people you gotta believe me, but the only way to get on this planet is through her stomach. So that means the universe, a guy got a covenant with her, right? But according to religion, she comes second, right? So in these circumstances, when I said that, men will say shit like, I mean, I won't say she first, but she could be my partner. Or I won't say that she all that, but she can't be, we can be, I won't say she my equal, but I can say, you know what I'm saying, she could be my woman. And I stopped instantly. First of all, I don't want to have no conversation with you because you're a chauvinistic bastard. And second of all, it ain't no way in hell you ever gonna find the truth in history or anything without having a respect for women. Because at the end of the day, that shit gonna submit you. The reason why our coaches is failing, just like why we failing, once we lose respect for our women, and that's when we lose respect for, and that's when we lose our coaches. Meaning that there's a reason why all the Egyptian pharaohs had to pray to women. Right? And there's a reason why if you study the pharaohs, a lot of them were women. You know what I mean? Now, I was in, and I tell people, not just jumping off the handlebar. When I was in film school, I had to do a report, right? And we had to pick something. So in this fucking thing, I picked this, it was two things. It was a picture that's in Europe. Like, it's not a picture, it's a statue made out of wood in Europe. And it's Jesus. And they made it out of brown wood. So his skin is brown, his hair is black, and it's a black man on his wood. And so I wrote two things. I picked that picture and I picked the sarcophagus of King Tut. And if you study Egypt and study ancient civilizations, if the sarcophagus got a buzzard on it, it is a woman. Because a buzzard will eat its legs off to feed its children if it's starving, right? So I made that point about King Tut being a woman, and they claim they don't know what happened to his mother. Like, we got to stop listening to people and use your brain. Because common sense is the highest science on the planet, and it's not common, right? And so I made that point, and then the wood, they made it out of wood. And I told them, like, yo, the reason why they made it out of wood was because it was a true depiction of what he looked like, but they always had a thing for putting Africans, they always compared the so-called African to wood. That's why Vlad the Impaler was sticking niggas on wood stakes, because they looking at the correlation of the tone. So they love hanging niggas from trees. It's always been a correlation with other races, with black people or Africans, so-called Africans, and wood. You know what I'm saying? It's like everything. When you building houses, when they built it out of wood, right? But the wood is like, you got to look at that shit, right? So I made that point about that. And so, mind you, I'm in film school. I only got 3 months left in my shit, right? For the label, because I figured I got a studio, I might as well go to film school, right? Because that's how we got to think. And I got like a 3.5 in this bitch, right? And she could have gave me, okay, she did not agree with me, and it was the final, right? And I had like an 83 in this class. She gave me a 0. So I want y'all to understand what's going on. I was only supposed to do 700 words. I gave her 2,000. I gave her 2,300 words. She gave me a 0. As if I didn't do it. And so I wrote the School of Full Sail, and I told them, like, I wrote them a 3-page letter, and then I called the school, and I was like, yo, your teachers do not have the right. And I sent them all the information I had studied. I sent them the pictures. I sent them the background information. I sent them the references, because she was saying that I don't have the right to make these claims if I can't prove it. I gave this lady the references, but see, it was this white lady, and white people at times tend to get offended about history, especially when it doesn't match what they believe or their morals or what they were taught. right? Because it's a problem when you show when I start dissecting that. Well, why did the Europe people make Jesus out of brown wood? Because at that time they wanted to clearly leave a depiction of what this man looked like, right? And the King Tut shit, that's why I say go back to women. Because at the end of the day, they was lying about that none of the women were pharaohs, right? All right. In the Valley of the Kings, right? And I want everybody to go check this shit, and it's gonna change your whole perspective. And I was saying this shit before I knew this. In the Valley of the Kings, right? It took them a minute to find King Tut because they didn't know who his body was. You know what I'm saying? They didn't know. But in the Valley of the Kings, it's like an area where they buried all the pharaohs, and it's like mountains on the outskirts, right? The biggest burial is Hatshepsut. H-A-T-S. It's Hatshep. H-A-T. So, and if you spell it wrong, it'll get, but you got to put H-A-T and put Shep. Hatshepsut, right? Her father was one of the most powerful rulers. I don't want to say the wrong name at the moment. But Hatshepsut, she was one of the most powerful rulers of Egypt, and she was a woman. She did it the biggest. This is why the ancestors said you got to think for yourself. Why would a man put on a fake beard? Right? Why would a man put on a fake beard? Because when there was foreigners in the town, that woman ruler is going to appeal as a man. So she will cut her hair off and she will put on this fake beard because she don't want them to know, or the outsiders to know, that she's a woman. Right? Because of the mentality of other nationalities, and probably I wouldn't be surprised at some point our own empires, you know what I'm saying? So that's why I'm so passionate. I feel like the only reason why I've been able to get the truths I've gotten, or been able to get certain things and understanding, is because I'm wholehearted. I mean, when I go read something, I look at something, I'm going in non-biased. I'm not going in trying to prove that the African was the most dominant, or I'm not going in trying to prove that the European or whoever ain't shit. I just go on with a completely non-biased approach, and I'm gonna take what I get from it. But at the end of the day, remember, this is why woman was God, a queen, a king first, right? As we call king. Because it was a time in history where a man couldn't rule a nation because he didn't give birth. That's common sense. How can a man, that's why America and the world fucked up today. We got men presidents. These men do not give birth, so they're missing a small piece of compassion for life. And that only a woman can, right? And I know I jumped because I'm talking Harriet Tubman, but it's the same thing. You know what I mean? Now, another thing in the movie that made me realize something, now the slaves, right? She was, when she came back, and I know it might have been some movie, she was singing, "Oh, Pharaoh, let my people go." We got to start realizing that Pharaoh was the slave master, not the African kings, yo. Right? We got to start realizing when they saying, "Oh, Pharaoh," Pharaoh was the ruler who came and took them and made them slaves, not the African kings. Right? Because why are slaves singing songs about Pharaoh? Right? Because the Pharaoh they talking about is a foreign ruler, not the rulers of their lands. Right? But in the book, they wanted to always give us these false representations of things, right? So that's why I always say, yo, we just got to be real about that shit. So, and I went there to say this because at the end of the day, it ain't no way in hell you're going to get what you need without the respect of women. So if you got a lack of respect for women, then you're going to have a problem with finding this true information, because at the end of the day, that's what this shit come down to. You know what I mean? So it's a reason why when you look at it, when I say Harriet, the movie's so deep. So I want people, if you did not check it out, you know what I'm saying? I really want you to go back and look at this movie with new eyes. And I want you to look at it from an understanding and not be upset when you see the black slaver. I mean, when you see the black slave catchers. Now, I can't think of her name, but it was a guy, I think he was like in like Mississippi, but he was like the worst. He was a black slaver, but he was the worst. Just like, it's an inside joke. In the Django, right? I'm gonna show you some shit. In the movie The Django, you remember when the Django and the Irish guy go to get his woman? Well, if you pay attention, I always say, well, whose house is it? And a lot of people say the dude that Leonardo DiCaprio played, they were saying that's his house. It wasn't his house. It was Steven's house, the black guy. They just didn't want to tell you out loud that that black man was the slaver. But he had to keep Leonardo DiCaprio close because their families grew up together, and plus, in case any white people came, he would need another white man to talk. Right? If you pay attention to the movie, because they killed him, but it was the black man that was telling them kill his ass. Right? Because the inside joke is that it was Steven's house, not Leonardo DiCaprio's house. You know what I mean? They're not telling you the truth in the movie if you pay attention. You got to look at the movie. In the Django, Stevens, the old sellout black nigga, it was his house, the plantation. And because basically it's kind of telling you at some point either his father's father and the white dude's father was real close, or he inherited that house, or they both had owned that shit. But at the end of the movie, it was the black guy's house. You know what I'm saying? In the Django, it was not Leonardo DiCaprio's house, because they killed Leonardo DiCaprio and the black guy had the white guys go get him and kill him. Why would they listen? Right? So when it comes down to the whole thing with the Harriet movie, you know what I'm saying? She running back and forth, and I know I'm jumping. She's running back and forth. And so they freed the slaves. They passed the bill to free the slaves. I mean, they passed the bill that allowed the slave catchers to go and get bounties and go get people and bring them back to the South, right? So they were showing you what led to the Civil War. You know what I mean? Because they were just gonna keep coming back and getting them. They didn't care. And like he said, I don't care. Like the plantation owner told Harriet family at the beginning, I don't give a damn if you supposed to be free. Your mama gonna be a slave. Your mama kids gonna be slaves. You know what I'm saying? Your kids gonna be slaves, because it's going to show you, man, there was a lot of people of our color that wasn't slaves. They was indentured servants. But they just decided not to let us go. You feel me? And they mixed us in with the rest of the population. Just like I was telling when I was studying, I was saying like, okay, let me say this. Let me show you how I know. Nobody taught me this. Let me show you how I know they was kidnapping free, whatever you want to call them, Moors, black, whatever. This how I know they was kidnapping free, educated people of color. During slavery, all them fucking inventions we invented, it's not possible for ignorant, non-reading slaves to invent a cotton gin or any of refrigerated trucks and shit, because you have to know physics, you have to know high-level mathematics, you have to know geometry, you have to know high-level maths in order to build these things and put them on the right angles. You have to know right angles. You have to know science. And an ignorant person that can't read or write cannot just guess this shit. They have to know measurements, right? And most of the inventions were invented, as they call it, were invented during slavery. So they said, oh, the slaves made these inventions out of necessity of having to work. I caught him like that's hidden colors. That's a lie. It wasn't just out of necessity of work. Apparently, they knew how to make these shits already. But in an economy where blacks can't go, well, we didn't need patents. We just created shit. But in a society where we are enslaved, and then they came up with these things for patents, where the only people that can get the patents at the time were the white men or the white women or whatever, that's what happened. So, you know, I just wanted to really, and that's why I touched bases with y'all, because at the end of the day, I do notice, like, that's why I went live last night. You know, I can't please everybody, and I'm gonna keep it a band. And I don't even be trying to offend people, but I'm gonna be 100, and I'm gonna keep it 100 for my people. You know, some people say, bro, you wrong. Listen, ain't nobody out here telling the Italians they wrong for looking out for the Italians. Ain't nobody out here telling the Mexicans they wrong for looking out for the Mexicans. But niggas want to tell me that I'm wrong for having a care and a love or wanting to say certain shit. You know what I'm saying? I don't even be going super, super deep, in my opinion. You know what I mean? But I can tell that a lot of it is deep because of where it take people. But I tell people all the time, like, if you meet me or you see me in the street or you know me and shit, motherfuckers be like, bro, I appreciate it. You ain't gotta thank me, bro. I'm giving you back what's yours. All I'm doing is giving you back what's yours. So just like when I was making with the CDs and my pops told me to go about it differently, I would make music with the message. But he was, you know, like he would tell me, you want to know why you ain't gonna get famous off of that shit? Because you can't sell people what's rightfully theirs. And I'd be like, yo, that's true. So CDs that I make like that, that's why I start to give them away for free. Or I get them to people who interested. When we have a conversation, I'm on the ground and they got a brain, I give them that CD. You know what I mean? Because you can't sell sell somebody what's rightfully theirs. And information and intellectual property and the states and the understanding and concepts of history, everybody has a right to it and it's rightfully yours. You know what I'm saying? So I just want to say, like, if y'all haven't checked out this Harriet Tubman movie, or Harriet, you know what I'm saying? If you got the Amazon stick, check that shit out. If you go to the movie center, check it out. But do not you definitely got to look at this movie because it's showing you a lot, and you got to be able to look at this shit and take it back. So that's why people say you got to have a foundation of, if you got a foundation of understanding of America or the ancient Americas and the foundation of all these ancient civilizations, once you get you a good foundation, you're going to start watching movies and see how they just throwing shit in your face, and they always teasing about the black relationships, like in Black Panther, how he was he disobeyed his woman. His woman was like, as you seen it in Black Panther, that the women were the warriors. Going back to like California was named after Queen Khalifa, but she was the last to die in this shit because her warriors, which was women, were the last to die because they were some of the most courageous, and that's the reason why they treat women the way they do, in my opinion. When I be digging in history, it's all these like groups of women warriors that had shut shit down because, see, a woman, they very meticulous, they gonna do the job right, and I think they fear for women to get that coalition again. You know what I mean? So that's why, like, when I seen the movie and at the end they showed me that Harriet Tubman, she sat next to Susan B. Anthony for the women's suffrage movement, right? But then when I seen the picture, bro, like, and I'm just keeping it a band with you, I want y'all to go look up Susan B. Anthony, yo. She's black. When I was looking at the movie and I looked at the picture as a grown man, I was like, yo, she mixed or something. I want y'all, when y'all get off, I want y'all to get off there, especially women, and go look up Susan B. Anthony, who got women's suffrage, right? She had a lot of black women in that movement, but we never asked ourselves, how did she get them black women in that movement? Because the pictures that they be showing sometimes, when you get pictures, they be drawing pictures, but actually look at all the pictures. You're going to see what I'm talking about. She was a mulatto. I guarantee you, if you trace Susan B. Anthony back, that either her mother or father was a black woman, or her grandmother was a black woman who was raped. But her father knew was light skinned and probably blended in. You know what I'm saying? Or her mother was light skinned and blended in white society. You know what I mean? So, just trying to touch base and connect with you. I ain't gonna keep y'all all morning. I appreciate everybody tuning in, you know what I'm saying, to get the information. And I always try to come back up here when I can for the movies and shit. And you know, the label always Black House, just so everybody know, I did change my name, but it's still Willie Walker, but it's Willie Walker BH when you looking up the music and shit or whatever, because there's two guys, there's an old blues legend and it's another person who named Willie Walker. And I didn't want to change it. I didn't want to, I'm named after my cousin who passed, who I first started rapping with, named Willie Walker from Jersey. You know what I'm saying? So I wanted to change it. BH, when you type Willie Walker BH, it's saying Black House, but it separates me. So even if you go Google and you type in Willie Walker BH, you'll be able to find these shits, you know what I mean? But if you like history, like I tell people, if you like history, then I need y'all to go, you know what I'm saying, go online. I'm trying to find this cover. And check out Declaration of My Forefathers, because it was like an album I gave for the people that wanted history. You know what I mean? And I don't really care. Like I tell people all the time, if you go online, you look at Willie Walker, Declaration of My Forefathers. Let me show y'all what the cover looks like real quick. This. So I tell people all the time, I don't care about the money. You can go online, you can YouTube convert this album, and it's Willie Walker, Declaration of Our Forefathers. Now, I didn't make it's not an album where I'm just all teaching, but I do got some real shit up there, and my objective of this album was for it to still be like, if you didn't see the cover, you wouldn't even know, because I still made the music real shit, but I wanted for people that was awoke, you know what I'm saying, to be able to get a concept of what I'm not talking about this all the way, but it's like putting it in your face what you need to be looking for and where you can find your truth. So you can go on YouTube and look up, or you go to Spotify, you can go anywhere and look up Declaration of My Forefathers, and you can convert it. But let me tell y'all some real shit. Let me tell you how I know that the feds and them niggas is watching me, right? So when I put my album online, when I put this album online every year, cause I put it through CD Baby. Every year, if you pay like $30. If after you pay for all the publishing, you pay like $30 to put an album online, right? And every year you gotta renew that bitch, right? If you go through CD Baby. Now, I did not renew this album, and every time I don't renew something, they tell me I'm gonna take it down in 30 days. I put this shit out in June, a year ago or 2 years ago, right? I did not renew this shit, but they will not take this shit down. So that's how I know. You know what I'm saying? So like Dick Gregory say, like, how you know when the feds watching you? He said he didn't pay his phone bill in 50 years, but they never cut his phone off. So you know they listening. You feel me? So BH, appreciate y'all checking me out, man. Inbox me, whatever. If any questions or you want me to talk about something or ever want to hit me directly, I'm cool with that. I'm down to talk to anybody who's interested in some history. All right? BH.